Morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today, especially Monday morning. Joe and I were just saying how brave we were to do this on a Monday morning. So you guys get an extra gold star from us for turning up on a Monday morning. Welcome to our chat about the first 100 days of Headship. And I'm really delighted to be joined by Phil and Joe today, who are both authors. I mean, how lucky are we to get two authors on the platform this morning? Phil has written the book The First 100 Days, here it is, which has inspired many a conversation with us in the past. And Joe has written a book which was inspired by this one called The PA Principles. So I'm really, really glad to have you both here today. Do you want to just introduce yourself, Phil, so that we can get to know you a little bit more?
Yeah, thanks very much. Lovely to be here. Thanks, Lucy. So I have been in education for, I guess, well over 20 years now. Started off actually working at an outdoor centre in America when I had no intention whatsoever of going into teaching, and realised I quite enjoyed working with children and young people. Then did a graduate teacher program, moved on to be a history teacher, and then followed the kind of promotional path, doing things like Future Leaders, which I know divides opinion, but Future Leaders was good for me. And eventually head teacher. And now I work with a company called Apogo. We work all over the country, all over the world now, actually. And written The First 100 Days as really a reflection on my 100 days from moving as a head of school to being a head teacher. And wrote all about what I learned from talking to Premier League football managers. So that's me.
Fantastic. And welcome, Joe. Do you want to do the same?
Lovely. Thanks, Phil and Lucy. My official title is Strategic Executive Assistant to the Head Teacher. So it's a bit of a mouthful, but there we are. So I've been essentially Richard Uffendale's PA at Ashton Park School here now for 3 years, but I've been a PA for longer than that under different head teachers. And essentially, when I knew we were going to get a new head teacher, which ended up being Richard, I started sort of researching and finding out what I could do to help him on his journey. And there was not a great deal of information out there. So I started reading books like Phil's book to think, right, okay, well, this is what head teachers read. So maybe I can glean something from that. So I read lots of different things. I did lots of research and spoke to a lot of people. And then I thought, right, I need to write this down. Not only because I would forget it, but I think that part of a head teacher's journey is so crucial, those first 100 days. And I actually talk about a shadow 100 days because the 100 days is for the head teacher and a PA has their own 100 days to try and deal with. So that was how the book was born. And then lots of other things happened, which, that's got to go in the book, and that's got to go in the book. And sooner or later, we had a book.
Yay! Congratulations. So we're going to chat to you both today about the first 100 days. So we're going to hear from Phil's perspective and from Joe's perspective. And we love you to join in and ask questions. So if you've got any questions you want to ask along the way, I will look after you with that and I'll help facilitate asking Phil and Joe. That's the whole point of the community, is that we all help each other and chat together. Because we've all got different experiences. For those of you who don't know, I was also a school leader for 18 years, so I could probably chip in a little bit with some answers if any questions come up too. So welcome to this morning's chat about the first 100 days of headship. And Phil, it's a really challenging, exciting, and almost overwhelming time, isn't it, when you get that job for the first time? I'll never forget it. When you're told you're going to be a head teacher, it's the best day of your life, but it's also the scariest day of your life. There's such a mixture of different feelings, isn't there? Do you remember that yourself?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I remember the interview, and it's that scary bit of when you get towards the end of the interview and you think, gosh, I might actually get this. I hadn't thought that far ahead. But not really exciting. And I think what I would say on reflection is the exciting thing about being a head teacher as opposed to any other role within a school is that ultimately the school rightly or wrongly becomes a reflection of you in all the good and the bad ways. So it's really important that you think through what you want that school to look like, what you want that to be, what kind of a place you want it to be for children to come to school to and staff to work. To lead something effectively, you need to have a clear vision on that. And I think vision is something that we talk about quite a lot, but it's something that once you really nail it down as to what your vision is, it's very liberating, because you've got an anchor point then to keep coming back to. And certainly as when I got the role, somebody said to me, it was actually Luke Sparks, who is the CEO of Dixon's now. I remember his talk at Future Leaders where he said that. He said, ultimately, like, rightly or wrongly, the school will become a reflection of you. And I thought, gosh, that would be like disorganized, erratic, impulsive, and occasionally making very bad decisions on a whim. So hopefully there are other good parts of that school, the way it turned out. But yeah, really exciting to be a part of it. But I think what I learned was that you can actually have a blueprint and follow what other people have done to create something which you're happy with after your first 100 days and beyond.
That's amazing. And Joe, you see it from the other side. So you see a new head teacher coming in, and you can see all of the emotions all in one go. So what do you feel is like? How do you feel that you see that kind of challenge that when a new head teacher comes in?
Well, by the time a head teacher is appointed, there's already been a fair journey that the school have been on, because they will be losing a head teacher, and then the recruitment process of getting a new head teacher in the building. That on its own is a challenge. But when a new head teacher is appointed, usually you've got around 2 terms notice from the point in which they're appointed to their very first working day. Now, a PA's 100 days starts at that point, the point in which they're appointed, because most new head teachers will want to get cracking immediately. That they will be buzzing. They'll be they will just like stop to think about anything else but what that they're trying to achieve for that school. And so that behind the scenes work from sort of would have been sort of April time until the September, if they're appointed to start in September. A PA to that head teacher may well be their only point of contact in the whole school, because they've still got their job to do in their other school or wherever it is they're coming from. But those 100 days are essential so that on day one, on the 1st of September, that head teacher can start and they can hit the ground running. They've done a lot of prep work, a lot of planning, and that's when their 100 days start. But a PA's 100 days is a shadow of that ahead of time, so that their 100 days is already planned in. You're not starting from that point, you're starting from when they're actually appointed. And that can be quite a juggling act, because if the current head teacher is still in post, you've basically got 2 head teachers to sort out, which is more than double the work. But it's temporary, and the work you put in at that point will pay dividends later on once they're in the building.
So imagine I'm the new head teacher. I know a little bit about the school, because obviously I've been through an interview, and it's quite a lengthy interview, so I would have had to have done my research. So I've just been told I've got the job yesterday. What do I do next?
Well, I think that the first thing is understanding the situation that you're going into. So one of the things that I talk about when I'm speaking to groups or to teams, whether it's a school or a corporate team, is the understanding the position to start off with. And some of the managers that we spoke to were excellent at this, and some of them got it wrong. And openly said they got it wrong. So, for example, Sam Allardyce would be somebody who is a very famous football manager. One of the things he talked about a lot was, if you're going into a team that needs a drastic turnaround immediately and needs quick action, then you need to act in that way. And that might not allow you to take the amount of time you need to sort of get to know people, to build relationships. It might be that you need to do that straight away. However, if you are going into a school that is doing pretty well and it's actually something that is around sustaining success, then you might take the approach that keep doing what you're doing until I tell you to stop. And that was something that the chief executive of the FA, or ex-chief executive of the FA, Mark Palios, that's what he talked about. And before that world in football, he also worked in corporate turnaround situations. So he had a really good grasp of what that 100 days would look like. So the first thing I would say is really understand the position that you're starting from. Now, there are ways to go about doing that. You can look at school data, you can look at outcomes, you can look at Ofsted reports, numbers on rolls, budgets, all those sort of things that give you an idea. And then you get to the granular detail of understanding the dynamics of the staff room, and understanding how the students feel about the school, how does the community feel about the school, and then it helps you to understand exactly what does it need. What are the priorities that you're gonna need to really focus on in your first 100 days? I mean, one of the things that I see quite a lot is you'll see it in the newspaper where it'll be a head teacher with their arms folded outside the school, and they've sent all the kids home because they've got white socks on instead of grey socks. And it may be that is the thing that they feel is going to be the quick win, that they'll be able to take that battle on. But it also might be the case of that is actually is not what's going to make the difference in the school. That's not the main thing they need to tackle. And I think the thing with learning from football managers like I did, and with my co-author Mickey, we realised that in a head teacher's world, you can have a bad first 100 days and still be there on day 101. In a football world, if you have a bad 100 days, you're not going to be there probably beyond 60, 70 days. So that's why it became so acute to understand what they did. So I think, first of all, understanding the position of the school. And then alongside that, and hopefully you've got this already via your interview, but really understand your vision or your purpose, as I'd like to say. I'd probably use that word more, of your purpose. What is your purpose as a leader for that school? What are you trying to achieve in that school? Because you can look at, I remember taking over my Headship, brilliant head teacher before me, so I was very lucky there. But the school improvement plan was 55 pages long for that year. And I thought, how on earth can you do 55 pages worth of work, or prioritize 55 pages of stuff? So I think being really clear on your purpose and the position of the school is really important.
Massively. And what about you, Joe? What do you think?
Well, all of those things, which make complete sense to me. I think also during the time in where a head teacher is appointed and when they actually start, just try and get into the school as much as possible. So they'll have to have authorization from their current school, and also the head teacher in your school, because when those two worlds collide, it may not be pretty. I'm sure it's all fine, but just on the off chance. But I completely agree about having your own vision and purpose, and getting to know the school in any way that you can. So just talk to as many people as possible. I arranged for Richard when he came for a visit. We managed to get him in for a couple of days to meet individually with all the senior leadership team, and as many people as we can possibly cram in to one day. And our school was, I wouldn't say it was failing. That's not fair. It had been through such a tricky time of uncertainty. They'd been through several head teachers, not to mention COVID, and it needed someone to sort of come and put their arms around the school, really. And that was the focus, about the culture and the climate of the school and the community, and bringing those factors together. And that's, while the school did need some immediate action on some things, actually it was that the love and warmth that the school needed, because they've been through so many head teachers. We felt a little bit dejected. We felt like we'd been sort of stood up, really. And so often that's really hard to plan. But if you have it as your vision and purpose, you live and breathe it. And if you get under the skin of the teachers and the students in the community, then you get that empowerment and that need to do better and to do more, and to really live those values and be them, a beacon of it, which is really tiring, especially on a day when you don't feel like it. But you have to exemplify what you want, which is exactly what I was saying. The school becomes a reflection of you. And if you want that discretionary effort, and you want those, we're here for the students at the end of the day. I talk about this a lot, but the students are the number one priority. If we can get those students to have a safe educational environment where they feel happy, it will come, it will grow. And to see that happening, certainly in Ashton Park School with Richard, is truly inspirational. And I remember I was heavily involved in his interview process. And he said to me, what would your advice be? What 3 things would you say to me as a new head teacher at this school? And he just delivered like a 5-minute presentation to the school staff. And I said, you need to be the man that you just presented yourself to be in the hall. I'm at that point, I was hoping that it wasn't just an act. And I said, you just need to be that person. Do the things you've said that you were just going to do. That's all you need. And just take time, to get to know people, get time to really listen. Don't go in all guns blazing, unless obviously there's a real situation that needs sorting immediately. Then the school is here for you, and we need you. So be that person. And I'm pleased to say that did happen. That's good.
That's great. I think from my perspective, I agree with all of that. And there's a sort of a theory side, a vision side, and then there's the practical side. And you have to be good at juggling the two. So whilst you're getting to know the staff and you're talking to them and you're really building that relationship up with them and the children and the parents, you've also got to make sure that all of the important things are in place. Because in your first week, if you feel that the children are not safe or the staff are not safe, then those things need to be acted on. So I'd say the priorities are, is everybody safe? Make sure that's in place, whilst you're also focusing on, spending time with the teachers. I really like the fact that your head teacher, spoke to you and asked you, what do I need to know? Do those conversations. They really do make a difference. Yeah. And staff really like to hear you ask them. They like to be empowered. They love to hear that you're interested in what you've got to say, and what they've got to say. So, spend that time getting to know them. But also think about, is there anything major that's staring at me that I need to act on quickly? And how am I going to do that? So, for example, safeguarding. There's keeping children safe in education is a very important document you need to make sure you're familiar with, and the school is acting on that professionally and as they should do. So, but have been in many different schools as a new leader, and in one school I had to do exactly that. Not every school, thankfully, but one school to do that. So it's really important to kind of juggle those things. So going back to the vision, Phil, and I love how your book is set out, by the way. We have the month before, the week before, day 1, the first 7 days, day 8 to 19. So if you're a new leader, this is a really good sort of book to kind of hook onto. So going back to the vision, how do you know what to do with your vision? It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because you think you know the vision, but how do you know you're right?
Well, I think it's your personal purpose for doing the role, and being authentic with that. And just to pick up on both of the points you've said there about people, everybody sat in that room because the teachers are the people who will deliver. The teachers are teaching assistants, the cover supervisors, the lunchtime staff, everybody in the school. They will be the ones in the classroom with the children delivering that. So with your purpose, I think it's being something that, like Joe was saying, working with Richard, it's something that is true to you. What matters to you. Everybody who you speak to, whether it's one-to-one in a staff room, is all, I think the forefront of most people's minds is how will this new leader in this school affect me? What will be the change in my life from this? And picking up on your point there about Lucy, about the logistics of safety, absolutely, keeping children safe and all those sort of things. But the other side of it is whether psychological safety. Do I feel safe now this person is here? So you can have the grandest purpose, vision in the world. If I'm sat there and think, well, that doesn't really include me, then that's automatically going to make you feel that you either need to fight against it or you need to fly away from it, one of the two. So you have to acknowledge that, because some people in the staff room, you might actually want to fly away from it because you think that they might think that, well, that's not for me. I like the way it was before. And we've all been in those situations where there's somebody sat in the staff room who knew what it was like 20 years ago, when maybe it was a different way of doing things, and those people had to leave. And a great example, like, I know my book's a lot about football examples, but look at Manchester United at the moment with Marcus Rashford. Now the manager's come in and said, this is the way I'm going to do it. Everybody that wants to get involved, they're involved. And his quote last night was words to the effect of, I'd rather put my 63-year-old goalkeeping coach on with the right attitude than any player who's got the wrong attitude. And I think that as a leader, that I was like, wow, now he's told everybody, this is the vision, this is why we're doing it, this is how it's going to affect you, it's going to make you all better. If you don't want that, then somewhere else might be better for you. So I think in terms of purpose, it's that authenticity and that relentless pursuit of it, really. Now, in terms of what that I spoke about when I was ahead, was talking about a purpose in terms of a journey. It was like a boat journey analogy that I gave, and I gave it in my interview and I gave it to the staff. So I talked through a narrative of what's going to happen on this journey towards a location that we'll never get to, but we'll work every day to get towards there. You'll never actually get there. You think, oh, all right, we've done it now. Let's just keep it like this forever. But it's something Simon Sinek he talks about infinite goals, something that you're always working towards. And as well as that analogy, I was a Catholic head, so I talked about love, faith, and hope. The gospel values, but if you're in a secular school, you can have your own values. And what you want in those values that underpin your vision or purpose is that it's something that somebody can always throw back at you and said, well, you said one of your values was love. So explain to me why you made that decision based on your values. And if you've not got an answer for that, then it's time to reflect on whether you've made the right decision or not. So I think it's like authenticity, 100% authenticity. What is it? And it takes a while. You can't just sit there and think, right, it's this. Because actually putting down, a huge set of values and experiences and beliefs that you've had into something that an 8-year-old child can understand in a primary school and your chair of governors can understand into one soundbite, if you like, is not easy. Anybody can write words down, but something that is really true to you is something that will just drive you forward, and it will really help you in all your big decisions in a school.
Amazing.
I couldn't agree more there, Phil. It's you have to have that moral code, and certainly with the staff that head teachers work with most closely, you have to have that common moral code, and it will quickly become apparent if people share that path and that moral code, or they don't. And most do. But like you say, in the staff room, there may well be some people who actually, this isn't for me, and maybe it's time to move on, or maybe it's time to have a professional conversation. But you do have to be relentless with it, and you have to be able to answer those difficult questions and also make difficult decisions. And I've said previously that if ever you're in doubt about a decision you're about to make, I always try and remind Richard and myself and anyone else who will listen, you have to bring it back down to those students. Is this in the best interest of the students? Is what I'm doing going to help their life chances and get them their destinations of what they want? Not necessarily in terms of grades and outcomes, which are fantastic if they come along, but is it something that's going to embed in the student about being healthy, happy, and willing to participate in their education? And that's a really good barometer for any decision you might make, big or small. If you're ever in any doubt, that one works a treat.
Yeah, massively so. I think you're both absolutely spot on, and it's reminded me of when I was in my early stages of leadership, and our school had just gone into special measures, and we were all extremely upset. And I read one of Alison Peacock's books over the weekend. Just like you, Joe, I was inspired by what I read with Phil's book. And I wrote to Alison Peacock and said, I think this would be right for my school, this kind of challenge approach it was called then. This is going back a few years. And I said, would you mind if I did the same in my school? And Alison replied and said, you've got to go for it. So I did. And I had this vision then. I had a vision. Every child will be challenged. I want our children to feel like they own their education and they have responsibility and they're excited by it and they want to find out more. They want to be curious. And I remember going in the morning, the first morning of having a new county head teacher in post, and saying to this poor person who I'd never met before, I've got this huge idea and it's going to change the whole school. The parents are all going to be involved. The children are going to be involved and the teachers. Will that be okay? You know, and so I could see like the blood draining from his face, but he could see how excited I was by this prospect. And I had done a lot of research. I'd visited Alison's school. I'd heard about her. I'd read all of her articles. So I kind of knew where I was going before I made that decision. And thankfully, he gave me the go-ahead to do it. And I think because I took everybody with me, I took the children with me as well as the parents and the teachers. It was a whole community thing. And I said to them, I was honest, look, I don't know if this is going to work. I've not done this before, but I feel like it's worth trying. And what we did is every single week, we would come together in staff meeting. And I did a drop-in every week with parents so they could talk to me. And I did a drop-in with children so they could talk to me. Every single week, I got feedback from everyone saying, how did your week go? What went well? Where did we go wrong? Did we go wrong? Can we make anything better? And to cut a very long story short, we were out of special measures in 10 months. And Alison asked me to contribute to her next book. So if you buy Alison's book, you can read a little bit about my journey during that time. But I have to say, it was the vision that drove me. That kind of passion, that kind of want to make it better, that drove me to think we can have a better school. We can, we can have children that love learning. But then it was the others around me that carried me. I was lucky I had some relationships with them previously that were able to kind of take me through. But it was everybody that did it together that was the most important thing. But Phil, we have to say thank you to you because you've got to disappear. I hear you've got a little journey to make.
Yes, I'm going to a school, but yeah, thanks so much for the opportunity. Like I said, I work with a lot of schools and leaders, and I'm always, happy to help anybody that wants any help with the team or just individually. And you can get the book on Amazon. I think it's sold out now, so you have to get second-hand copies.
Oh no! Oh really?
Yeah.
We'll put a link down underneath the chat. So if you want to buy Phil's book, we'll put the link there to make it easier. But thank you so much, Phil. For joining.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Lucy.
Thanks, Phil.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
So, Jo, come on, tell us about your book then, because it is the best thing I've read for a long time in terms of...
Really? Oh, that's lovely of you to say.
It's really important to hear, everybody's viewpoints, and, it's got so much in it. And we've got another training session just on one, haven't we, called How to Be an Organisational Superhero Ninja, which is chapter 6 in the book. Yeah. So tell us about the book and how you got the idea.
Well, I started when I became a PA. I started as my journey on Twitter, or X these days, and I started sort of being able to connect with some like-minded people, and certainly Richard, in his first year of headship, as I've mentioned in previous conversations, that his first year of headship was like something I've never experienced before. There were things that happened in that year that no head teacher could really prepare for, and certainly no PA could prepare for. I mean, we prepared a lot. We planned his first 100 days down to the day, down to the hour, and things came along that just completely blew it out of the water. And there's no need for me to go into every single one, and it's in the book. But we had, Queen Elizabeth died, which is like a monarch. This is unprecedented in our generation. Like, what do you do when the monarch dies?
Yeah.
We had sort of natural disasters that happened at school. We had a death of a member of staff, and it was things that you just don't know how to deal with them until they come along, no matter how much you prepare. So whilst we would sort of learn, it's sort of that analogy of you're building the plane whilst you're flying it, and you just have to keep going and learning and talking, and sort of trying to keep everyone in it with you. But the book itself, when I was on Twitter and asking for advice and reaching out to people, lady Kimberly Evans, we immediately struck up a connection we'd never met before, about well-being, because while all this is happening, the well-being of your head teacher, and certainly yourself as a PA, will be tested when you're up against it and there's big things going on. Your well-being, it goes on the back burner, and it's a doing situation. You just have to try your best to get everything done and everything considered. And she kind of started talking to me about, how do you support your well-being when you're doing all of this? When Ofsted is in the building and you're not leaving till 10 p.m. Like, how is that sustainable? What do you do? What does your head teacher need in those situations? And we just struck up a lovely rapport, and it works out that we've both got very similar lives, with children and families and things. And I think it was Patrick Otley O'Connor that said, you two should write a book. And
yeah.
There was a moment of no, and then I thought about it, and Kimberly was thinking about it, and then I thought, shall we just see? And we went in it with a completely open mind, and sort of thought, if nothing comes of it, that's okay. But it's a nice thing for us to do, to document all this stuff and write down the things that we've learned from these situations. And very quickly, a book was beginning to be formed, and I found it a really cathartic process, because all of those things I've mentioned and more, it was nice just to get them out of my head and on the page. And that's how it came along. And like I said, we've experienced so many things in a school. Like the shadow 100 days I've spoken about, and then Richard's actual 100 days, and the other things that happened during that time. We learned so much. And that's not to say that it was an easy process, or that we didn't think to ourselves, oh, crikey, we don't know how this is going to end. We don't know how this is going to pan out. And that was important to sort of have that reality in the book, because it doesn't always go right. It's not always easy. But you are a team, and there are times when it's just the head teacher and their personal assistant, or perhaps their school business manager or their deputy head. And it comes down to you. That is it. And that pressure is real. But writing the book really helped me sort of see things holistically. It helped me share lots of ideas. I learned a lot. And certainly Kimberly's input into the book was invaluable with her well-being strategies and how to do all these things, be successful, feel good about it, and also still be alive at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's quite important, that bit. So tell us a little bit about your tips for new head teachers from your perspective. I mean, because it can be overwhelming. So imagine I've started my job. We've done the pre-prep thing. So I've been chatting to you all the way through, and now it's day 10, 14. I've been there about 2 or 3 weeks. I've done the vision chat with everybody. I've met with all the staff. I've checked that there's no safeguarding issues. What next? What do I do now?
What next? So I would say you're probably drawing towards the end of the honeymoon period if you're in that position. So there is all, I think, a head teacher, you'll just be really beginning to see how the school actually functions for real. And the biggest tip really at that point is to walk the school. That it's so easy for a head teacher just to get stuck in their office, and that's the last thing they actually want. They want to walk the school. They want to see it, feel it, be present, see things as they happen, pop into classes, not for in an auditory sort of way, but just to be there and get that feel for the school, because that's how they're going to be able to assess the culture and climate that they're in. From a PA's point of view, that first sort of month, the head teacher can feel quite alone about a new head teacher. Everyone's out to impress them. Everyone wants a piece of them. Everyone's on their best behaviour. Those trusted relationships aren't there yet. They're being built. And you can sort of see those professional relationships building up. But at that moment, really, the biggest one that has spent the most time with that head teacher is your PA. And so I would check in, make sure you schedule that time together. How's it going? I made Richard do what I call a captain's log each day. And I made him just a really simple form to fill in a few questions. How was your day? On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think the day was? And sometimes it would be really good, sometimes it wouldn't. And just an opportunity just to write down, this went really well and I was happy to see it. This is what I would like to work on. What else is going on in the big bad world? What is impacting on how I feel about today? And that didn't go on for months and years, but just a moment just to take stock and work out, what have I seen today? What did I like? What should be celebrated? What needs improvement, and how quickly do we need to see that improvement? It's very much getting to know people, and certainly within the first 2 terms, I would say, but quicker if you possibly can, is to meet every single member of staff. Richard had a really quick 10 minutes with every single member of staff during that first term. So he got to see people face to face and have a chat with them. There was nothing more to it than that. It was, hi, I'm Richard. Tell me about yourself for 10 minutes. Tell me what's on your mind. What's a successful day look like for you? And that book, it allowed him to get to know people and start building that professional trust and that psychological safety. Remember that our school, we needed a bit of tender love and care, really. And so it was an opportunity for people to feel heard. And that was really valuable. So just keep listening, watching, being present. You don't have to do anything in particular unless there's a real issue that has to be addressed. But your PA can help you do all those things and schedule that in for you. So
Yeah.
you don't have to think about when you're doing it, how you're doing it, where you're going. You just go, because your PA says, right, you go down to a floor and this classroom. The teacher's desperate to show you what they're working on. And it builds from there.
They're very lucky to have you, honestly. But also, I love the fact that you talk about journaling. It's something that I'm really passionate about. And those of you who will know me know that I've made planners, and the planners that I've made are all the ones that I've done when I was doing the job. So the deputy head planner is my deputy head planner when I was a deputy. The assistant head, the head teacher one, they're all the planners I used when I was doing the job. This one's the school business manager one. I wasn't a school business manager, but my friend was, and she got really upset that I'd made everybody else a planner and not her. So she helped the leadership information section. But in all of the planners, no matter what role you are, on the weekly page, we've actually put those prompts. So we've got reasons to celebrate, a well-being reminder, so don't forget to drink the water, and key priority. So it makes me think, what do I have to do? What do I have to do for my well-being? And then what reasons have I got to celebrate for this week? And it's just a nice reflection. I think it's so important. It literally takes 1 minute. Jot down, you can just jot down one word if you want to.
Yeah.
It's just a nice reminder that actually I'm on a journey. It doesn't have to be perfect every week. This is a journey.
Yeah.
Let's celebrate the small wins and the small steps that I make.
And it's so important to, say, midway through the year or at the end of the academic year, to just go back and have a look at those things. And it'll be striking the journey from A to B and where you started, and the things that perhaps used to derail you. And there will be some. The first time you have to permanently exclude a student, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. But you do it and you get through it, and then you can reflect on it and think, God, that was horrible right then, but we did it and we managed and we learned. That is the main thing, that you learn from these things. And most head teachers, they've got a pretty big heart in there. And there will be things that really, really sort of test their mettle. You might get a particularly stingy parent complaint, and it's how we handle those things, and do we let it get to us? Maybe a little bit, but that makes you human. But what do we learn from it? What do we take from it? When it happens again, it doesn't sting quite so much, and that journey will go on and on and on. And it is actually not just for head teachers, but for anyone that works in a school. If you're a new teacher or new to being a PA or new to being a school business manager, these things will happen. And it doesn't mean that you're good at your job or that no one likes you. It's just part of the role, and how you deal with it. It is really important. That's why you need a good team around you, a good PA who can help you see the wood for the trees, and that vision that will carry you through all the way.
And I know, Jo, you're very wonderfully a member of the community as well, which is really lovely, because we celebrate everybody in our community. So it's nice to have you to come in and share your ideas. And I know that you will gladly help others who reach out.
Absolutely,
and go, what I'm doing. We've all been there. We've all been in that situation where we don't know what we're doing. And that's why we have a community, because we're all here to help each other. And I know that we're going to be chatting with you and Kimberly. We're going to go through, as we said, chapter 6, how to be an organizational superhero ninja. And so I'm really looking forward to that, because I love being organized. It's my passion, as you can tell with planners. It's something that I really love to be. It helps me to kind of manage my well-being if I know that I feel organized. So to have your input and Kimberly's is going to be fabulous. I'm really looking forward to that. if anybody has any questions, I know I've suggested that you can ask questions during the session. Obviously, feel free to ask questions now before we finish. But if anybody has any questions after the session, would it be okay if they direct message you?
Absolutely. So I'm on Twitter. I'm sure, Lucy, if you could put my email address on there, I'm happy for people to contact me.
Yeah.
Not just, you know, our community is so important, and for anything, just reach out to somebody. Reach out to me. If it's not me that can help you, I can get you in touch with someone that can. And don't sort of suffer in silence, but also I'd love to hear some successes and some good practice. I'm all for that. I'm sharing. You know, we can, a PA's role can be quite lonely, so let's make our community even bigger. That'd be great.
100%. So for those of you who don't know, that on the community platform there is a message button, so you can choose who you want to message and send them a direct message, and it will give them a little notification. You can do the same to me, so you can feel free to ask me any questions anytime. Joe has kindly offered to answer questions too. And I know Phil would, but obviously Phil isn't on the community because Phil is not serving in school. The only people that we're allowing in the community are those who are serving in school. So if you've got a question for Phil, just drop me a message and I'll pass you on to Phil via email, which would be fine. I'm sure he would love to chat. He's such a nice person. So, and anybody who's starting a new role and are thinking, oh, I don't know where to start, we have actually created a transition document, and in it is a checklist of everything you need to think about in great detail, written by myself and Jonathan. As I said, we've been school leaders for 18 and 26 years, so we've been there and done everything, I think. And it's also up to date with all of the latest DFE and safeguarding information too. So that's in the downloadable template section of the community, which is free of charge to download if you are a premium member. So head over there and have a look at that. You can download all of the templates, and they're all updated as soon as the DFE and Ofsted and KICSI come out. We more or less do them on the day that the updates occur. So if you're interested and you need to know, you'd like to have a list so you don't forget anything important, I really recommend you take a look at that. So thank you so much, Jay, for joining us. We're looking forward to seeing you in the next session. I hope it's been helpful to everybody. Brilliant. We've had some nice messages come through saying thank you. So it was great that you all joined us today. We hope Mondays are kind to you and that you have a nice rest of the day. So thank you so much for joining us, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Lucy.
Bye.
Bye.